Today I want to show you how to remove fabric under your behind without scooping the crotch. This came up in my Facebook group and I thought it was a really cool situation because I haven't really talked about this yet on my channel, but what it involves is the length of your inseam versus the length of your side seam, and how that's all fitting with the way you're sitting in your pants or stand in your pants. So what happens is, if the length of your inseam is too long and there's extra fabric trapped under there, it tends to create wrinkles under your behind, along your, in your back leg. And sometimes if you're looking at the front view, you can also see that you just seem to have too much fabric there. Now, how can you tell if you need to scoop to make a deeper hole, or do you need to just remove fabric under your behind? Because scooping will also remove fabric from under your behind because you're lowering the curve on the pattern. So if you can sit down in your pants without the back waistband sliding, okay, but then when you stand up, you just feel like you have way too much fabric hanging out under your behind, this is the situation I'm talking about. Oh, and the cool thing about this is it's a really easy adjustment. So what we're going to do is, let me just start in the back. I'm going to draw myself a diagonal guideline from the, from the intersection of the side seam and the waist down to the inseam like this, okay? And then you're going to determine, about how much you need to remove. So after you draw this diagonal line, you're going to decide how much you need to pick up. And basically, if you can pinch out under your behind, and see what that amount is, that's a good guide to figure out how much you need to lower the top of your pattern. So what I'm going to do here is I'm literally going to cut my pattern along this diagonal line, okay, and I'm just going to lower it. And let's say we wanted to lower it a 1/2 inch. It may be more or less, but just for now I'm going to do a 1/2 inch. Okay, so there's my little 1/2 inch guide. And I'm just going to push this down like this. And then I'm just going to use some Scotch tape to hold that there. All right. So what we're doing here is we're removing fabric. And it's kind of cool because it's removing fabric on your back leg. I just want to color it in. It's removing all of this fabric. So if you've got a little bit of extra over here towards the side seam, it's removing less, but underneath the crotch, it's removing more. All right, so that can help pick up fabric. And then I basically would true this up by using the original crotch extension and just smoothing it out like that. Okay, and then you'd have to make a like adjustment to the front. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw a similar line here, and I'll do my 1/2 inch like that. And what I want you to notice here is we are removing fabric under crotch level, but we're not touching the crotch itself. So if you feel like your crotch is fitting nicely and you don't need to make more room there or remove room there, then this is a really easy way to fix this. Now, again, I'm just going to reconnect this here because basically I want to put this back. This swung in. I'm not adding anything there. I'm just putting it back because I pushed it this way. And that's the same thing with this little wedge right here. I'm putting back the width because I pushed it away. I'm just putting it back by truing it up there. So again, in the front, the same situation. We're just getting rid of fabric like this. Okay, so again, we're getting rid of all this fabric. And as you get towards the side seam, it gets to be none, right? So what we've accomplished here is we have picked fabric up under the crotch without touching the crotch. The other thing is, and I've mentioned this before, after you make these adjustments to reestablish your grain line, you're going to just reestablish it from below the adjustment. But what I want to show you here is, I think this is really kind of cool. It really doesn't affect the back grain line all that much. Notice the top of my grain line is where it was. So this is less, this is less invasive to the grain line as well, because you're working on the diagonal for a slash. So it did jog it a little bit over here, but notice this does not push the grain line closer to center back as it would if we cut horizontally and overlapped on this side. That would tip the pattern over. So the other nice thing about this simple adjustment is it's very gentle or very minimal, has a very minimal effect on the grain line. So I hope if you're trying to figure out how to get rid of that little smidge of fabric under your behind when you have enough sitting room and your crotch is fitting well, maybe give this a try. I thought this was a fun little adjustment. It's not complicated. It's not hard to do. It's something you can try if you have extra fabric on your back leg and you just feel like, the fabric, there's just too much fabric along your inseam vertically. And you won't be able to see it as much in the front as you will in the back. But if, like I said, if you feel like everything is fitting nicely and you don't want to touch the shape of your crotch because it's agreeing with your body, this is a really easy option to try to pick up some of that fabric underneath the crotch without touching the crotch. And just to finish this up here, I'm just going to cut the inseam here, just so I can show you. I'm going to put it together here like this, right? So it's not touching any of that situation. It's just picking fabric up and getting rid of it under here primarily. And then as you go towards the side seams, it gets rid of a little bit less. Again, a really simple adjustment, but sometimes, doing the simple thing is the best thing to do, right? Like, I like to engineer all sorts of adjustments, and some of them can be very, time consuming or lots of steps. This is not that. This is just a very simple adjustment you can do to remove fabric underneath the crotch without touching the crotch. So if you have any questions or comments about this, please post those below and I will help you. If you're enjoying my content, consider liking and subscribing